would it be accurate to say that Elon Musk fired you?
Let's start with the clickbait.
Directly.
Isn't that exactly what I just told you not to do?
No, okay. Why don't you tell us in your own words
what's been happening the last couple weeks?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll start with some background that is probably important for the story. So for the past about 10 years, I've been a professional data scientist working in many different companies, but I was in data science consulting for about 7 years. And after that, worked at a cybersecurity company for about a year doing data science work there. And this, just as a high level, this is basically taking data, extracting insights from it, building predictive models, getting any informative things we can out of that data and presenting it to people, and so they can make decisions based on data, usually for business processes, but it can also be for health analytics if you're determining if one drug is better than a placebo, things like that. That's more traditional statistics, but these are all encompassed by a kind of data science work. So it's basically, you give me data, I extract some value from it by analyzing it. So before that, I did a master's in statistics. So that's just a bit about my background. And the short of it is that I wanted to look for a data science job that wasn't just focused on, getting as much profit for the company. I was looking for something that was a bit more, I guess, productive in terms of helping people in some way, not just saying like, here's a promotion that's based on your past behavior. You'll like this promotion better than this promotion. Like, I don't find that interesting. I'd rather do something that at least has some benefit for
society.
For society, yeah. So, I had started looking at working as a data scientist in the government and started to apply to some jobs in the government. And I was fortunate enough to get an interview at the USDA at a job within the Food and Nutrition Service. I won't say the specific team, but like it was within that agency. And after a few months of HR stuff, takes a while to get, to do all the paperwork and get your, background check and approval. But eventually I got a starting date, and that was December 29th, 2024. So is that like 6 weeks ago now? 6 or 7 weeks ago. And I started on December 29th. It was, there's always a lot of stuff to fill out the first couple of weeks. You're just doing lots of, trainings and initial forms and things like that. So it's pretty normal, a lot of stuff. But
I think it's like that in a lot of jobs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a little more than like your average job, your private sector job, but it was expected. So it was fine, And then after the first couple of weeks, I actually started doing work, like getting into the data that they had, like starting on my initial projects, what they wanted me to work on, and figuring that out and how things work there. And, a lot of it is figuring out what their current method of work is and figuring out ways to make it better. So my job that I was hired for there was basically to kind of modernize their data practices. So
Okay.
they had some statisticians working there, and I was brought in as somebody who was better at just the programming side and the visualization side and the data management side. So kind of modernizing how they managed their data, how they stored their data, how they processed it, like the scripts that they would use to process it, like organizing them better, making things more automated if possible, as much as possible, and things like that. And like one specific thing that I had started to work on that I made significant progress on was a kind of annual report that they would generate, ideally every year. But it had been taking them multiple months to do this because they did it in a manual way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say multiple months, I mean like 6 months or
That's a lot.
Yeah, and it was a lot of work, but I was brought on with kind of new eyes, new method possibly to look at this, and I basically in the first couple of weeks of looking at it, I had written a lot of code that would, I think in the end, would have reduced that time down to about maybe a couple weeks.
Wow.
From 6 months. And they need somebody who was aware of the more modern packages and libraries that were possible in the software that we use to do data analysis, like in R and Python. Like they just didn't have somebody with knowledge of the modern ways of doing things. And I was brought on to do that, and I had already started doing that. My boss had my supervisor had said that I should go on I should start helping to manage like the migration of a new database that they were working on. So I was, started to get more responsibility in the team already, just in a few weeks. Okay, so that's kind of the environment that I was working in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Do you have any questions?
I didn't know if you would be working on like food or agriculture, or like looking at what the team is doing and trying to optimize their workflow. But anyway, but other than that, no, it's pretty clear.
It was all of that basically.
Okay.
There was a lot I was going to take on for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's best now to just lay out the timeline of what has happened administratively and since I started. So,
okay.
Like I said, December 29th, I started work, and sometime during the week of January 20th, I think it was the 21st, we got sent this email that was like a test email that said it was from the OPM, which is the Office of Personnel Management, like the kind of the government-wide HR for the whole government, like all the agencies.
Okay.
So they sent this email to all of the government employees, like a couple million, I don't know how many exactly there are, but like, and it just said, "This is a test email. Please reply yes that you have received this email." And we were like, "Is this a scam?" we didn't know what it was, because it really looked like a strange email. There was no like signature. There was no like, usually you have like, a signature with like the OPM logo and things like that, and like who it's from and just things like that for government emails. There was none of that. It was just this like box, this like raw HTML box, like that said like, "Please reply yes."
Was it in Comic Sans?
I don't remember. I don't have it probably was. So my supervisor actually asked me, like, did you get this email? Like, do you know anything about it? I'm like, yeah, I got it. I don't know what it is. It really looks like one of those test phishing emails, that companies send out when they're trying to, make sure that people are following proper cybersecurity principles and not just like clicking on links and stuff or replying. So I told him it looked like that because it really did. And eventually, after some asking around, we were told that it was legitimate and that we should reply to it. So I replied to it with yes, that I received it. So, and from what I know, my colleagues did as well. So that was weird. Then the next week, I think it was January 28th, every employee of the government got this deferred resignation email. And it was very short. You can find the text to it. It's on the OPM website. But it just said at the end, reply with resign if you accept the offer to resign. And the offer was, you can be paid your salary until, I think, September of this year, 2025. So you have like 7 months or something of salary, but you've resigned and you don't get any, like, there's no further benefits. Like,
right.
You're resigned. It implied that you didn't have to work during that time.
It would be good to say, what is deferred resignation?
That is just the way they call it, where you resign, but you still get paid.
Okay. So for until September.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's called the fork in the road email.
Okay.
And that's the full email. So at least they're releasing the full emails to the public.
Okay.
And it basically says there are four pillars of reforming the federal workforce: return to the office, performance culture, more streamlined and flexible workforce, and enhanced standards of conduct. All right. And then it says, if you want to remain in your position, like, you have to work according to the principles that they just laid out, but they're also in the future possibly going to reduce the workforce, which basically says even if you don't take this resignation, there's a chance you'll just be fired anyways in the near future.
Okay.
And you can see at the end that it just says reply and type the word resign in the email and hit send.
I'm leaning towards, I hope you resigned.
So I did not resign.
Ouch.
Because
okay.
And I did think about it seriously, because so my job was, I was hired to be remote, and I was hired. So in the government, there's telework and there's remote work. And telework means that you have an office that you go to, but you're authorized to work sometimes from home, depending on what your agreement is. Remote work means you have no office to go to. Your office is your home.
Okay.
And that is not, it wasn't supposed to change.
Right.
So that's how I was hired. And in this email, they say you're going to have to return to the office, but it was unclear when that would happen. And at the time, it was unclear if that was everybody, or if that was only telework people, or if that was remote people who weren't near an office, or, it wasn't clear. None of this was clear.
Right.
So
I guess it was happening quite fast.
And it was happening fast, and I had a lot of other work to do. So,
right.
And I'm trying to, as a new employee, prove my worth, at least in the beginning, of course. Not that I would stop trying to do that later, but like, at least initially, there's this, like, I've got to start, producing something at least.
Naturally, they haven't seen you work.
Yeah.
They don't know what you're capable
exactly.
of.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to at least give them the confidence that they didn't hire an idiot. So I didn't take the offer because it also wasn't 100% clear that the offer was legal. There were a lot of people saying, and not, like Congress people saying that they're not sure if this offer is legal, if there'll be funding for it. So given all of that, I thought, worst case, I'll be called back into the office months down the line and it won't make much difference. At least I'll have the chance that I can keep the job because I was liking it. I was enjoying it. I could see the impact I might have. Mm-hmm. So the next big email that we got was like the guidance on the returning to the office. And that came from the USDA agency, so like our larger agency. And that basically said supervisors have to go back to the office, teleworkers have to go back to the office, remote workers within 50 miles of the national office have to go back to the office. And we're developing guidance for remote workers farther than 50 miles from the office or people under a union contract, which is another whole thing. But technically, some government jobs are under a union contract, which means the union negotiates the contract. Sure. I wasn't even aware my position was under that. Until I kind of got farther into the process, but it was. And so in summary, they were still developing guidance for remote workers farther away from the office and for people under the union contract. So that also said to me, maybe I've got a chance that I won't have to go back to the office eventually and I can keep working as I am. So I was like, okay, I still won't take the resignation offer. I forgot to mention that the resignation offer had a deadline of less than a week. I think it was, so they sent it out January 28th and they said you had to, maybe a bit over a week, they said you had to reply by February 6th.
What was your stress level at this point?
Yeah, it was getting up there. Yeah. Yeah. Because I was a bit, I was slightly stressed out from just starting a new job. Nothing crazy, but, there's always some stress with that. And then this just added to that. It's just added to the uncertainty. Like I didn't expect this kind of uncertainty in the job. That was January 30th. We got that guidance about returning to the office. Then also that week, though, there's something else I got to explain about government jobs.
Okay.
So basically everybody, when they start a job in the federal government, they are classified as a probationary employee. Mm-hmm. And usually it's for 1 or 2 years that you're classified as probationary. And then after that, you become like a career public servant. And in summary, the probationary employment time is a time where you don't have as much protections from being fired. So the procedure that they're supposed to follow is to look at your performance. And if your performance has been determined to be less than adequate, they can fire you.
Okay.
But usually you would go through performance reviews, and if it wasn't good enough, they try to help you. And eventually, if it was not possible that you got a better performance, review, then they could let you go, and
Sure.
yeah. But if you're past that probationary period, it's much more difficult to fire you. And when I say let you go, I mean let you go that day. Like, they don't have to give you severance or anything.
Like, don't come tomorrow.
No, just you're it. Turn in your badge and no more pay for you. So
you were still in probation period this time?
Yes, I'm in probation. My term was 1 year of probation.
Oh, okay.
Right. So
that long. Okay.
It would be until end of next December.
Yeah.
So I think it was this week, that was the week of February 3rd or so, that we got an email from USDA that said, we've been asked to produce a list of all the employees who are probationary to the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management.
Okay.
We don't have any more information to tell you. Like, it was basically it.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, but that doesn't mean anything really. Like, I assumed that because the specific team I was on dealt with some sort of subsidies, that it was not going to be touched. It was the work we did, like, could directly affect poorer people's lives,
Okay.
And my supervisor and his supervisor were also pretty confident that any cuts wouldn't directly affect us significantly. So I was like, all right, I'll just hope it's okay. And I did not take the resignation. Yeah, then it was February 12th. So a judge extended the deferred resignation program for a week. I don't have the details why it happened, but it was delayed until February 12th.
So this is also happening kind of publicly, getting some, like, there's judge involved and...
Yeah, because everything that's happened related to this is not standard procedures, let's say.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I was, of course, sent an email that said your name is on the list that's of probationary employees, of course. But there are thousands of people on that list.
Sure.
So then it was February 13th. I logged on in the morning and I see this. I open my email and there's a subject, an email with the subject, probationary period notification.
Okay.
Sounds good, right? So I open it up and the body of the email says, "Good evening. Please find attached a notice based on your probationary status. Please contact this email regarding the return of your equipment."
What?
So I opened the enclosed document, which is a PDF, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will read the paragraph that basically says you're fired. So it says, "The agency," which is the USDA, "finds, based on your performance, that you have not demonstrated that your further employment at the agency would be in the public interest. For this reason, the agency informs you that the agency is removing you from your position of data scientist with the agency and the federal civil service effective February 13th, 2025.
Okay.
I had just started 6 weeks prior to this. I had no performance review yet because those are official things
right.
in the government that are supposed to happen, I think, every 90 days when you start.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any like documents saying I have poor performance.
Right.
There's just no documents. So, and so I'm reading this email like, is this true? Like, what do I do now? Like, I'm like, what do I do? So I messaged a coworker, like, who I also knew was probationary, and she said, I didn't get an email.
Okay.
I messaged another guy. Do you have, I was asking, I messaged my boss, my supervisor, but he was traveling to brief some policymaker at the time, so he didn't have access to his Microsoft Teams message or his email at that moment. So I got his cell phone from a coworker, and I messaged him, and I was like, I think they fired me. What do I do? And basically, he called me. We talked, and he had no idea. He didn't know I was fired. His supervisor didn't know. Nobody who would have any idea of my performance knew that I was fired.
So, like, where is this coming from?
This is so. The specific email that fired me came from like the main USDA HR. But just from some, I don't know, some guy. I don't know who.
Right. Yeah. And there's no recourse or anything.
It does say that you can apply to some merit-based, I forget the terminology that they use, but there's this normal method that you can apply if you think you were discriminated against, or if you don't think it was fair. But for a probationary employee, at least generally, unless it was real discrimination, you're not gonna win the case because you're probationary and you just don't have much rights. Like, usually it's a performance issue. And
so the other probationary people, as far as you know.
So, okay, I'll also say that I found this out in the morning at 7:30 is when I start. Usually, that's when I usually started, and I was cut off from access in about an hour and a half. Okay. I couldn't. My account was just cut off, and I just couldn't do anything. So
if you hadn't checked your email in that hour,
I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. And you know, usually your employer would give you information about offboarding, like, you know, what's going to happen to your health care, what's going to happen to your benefits,
right.
Things like that. Like, how do I transfer the work that I was doing? There was none of that. All of the work that I did is on my computer, and I don't have any way to like send it to people or give them access to it, because we were still in the process of setting all those things up. So it was locally on my computer.
So they I don't
if they had given me like a day just to be like, okay, please just transfer your work over to somebody, it would have been easy. But like, I'm like freaking out, you know, so I'm like, what do I do here? And there was nothing of that. They just cut off my account access, and I couldn't even get all of the documents that you would usually get from this.
I'm just thinking from the government's perspective, just to summarize what I have till now. Like, from the government's perspective, they hired you to streamline some processes,
To make
which
things more efficient.
you did, but the work was still on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
When they fired you, so they basically didn't really get the...
No, all the work I did is gone. I don't think they're gonna. It's too late now, and even if I send it to them, they don't have the knowledge themselves
on
how to do it and how to, because it wasn't like I was 100% finished and they could just press a button and
right. Yeah. It has to be implemented. Do you know if the other probation people are working there?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I know that lots of other probationary employees from the government in the USDA and in other agencies have also been fired. Just because they're probationary. And again, probationary doesn't mean you did something bad and then you're on probation.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It just means, you're a new hire. And it's only because they can.
Right. There's
fire.
like no consequence.
There's no protection, yeah. And I got my I got my termination letter at 7 p.m. that night. And of course that was my last day. So I don't even get paid for the Friday that I logged on to check that I was fired the day before. And I didn't have time to like put in my timesheet. I don't even know because I was working 9 hours Monday to Thursday and 4 hours on Friday. I don't even know if that's going to be reflected in the timesheet, and I don't even know how it like HR is not being that responsive at this time because they're overloaded with
probably
everybody because there are like thousands of people from just the USDA who've been fired similarly, just like this.
Do you know if it's... you said it's not just the USDA. It's...
No, it's all agencies. I mentioned that I worked for a cybersecurity company. It was a cybersecurity company from Silicon Valley. It was a pretty new company that was, going through some difficult times at the time. It was like 2023, I think. And they decided to lay off our whole department. So me, along with like 20 other people, got laid off. And the way that was done was so much more professional than the way this was handled. Like we got kind of word through the grapevine that something was going to happen in a couple weeks. And then they told us on a call, like they explained, like, we're sorry we have to do this, blah, 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 downsizing, blah, 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 blah. And they gave us a month of severance pay. We could keep our benefits for that month. And, at least there was some offboarding of what's going to happen to you. And, not just like literally you're fired, no severance, no payment, no explanation.
The explanation thing is weird.
Like I've had to go onto Reddit to figure out like how much longer am I going to have health care? Like what's going to happen to my retirement funds that are in there? Like, how do I get those out? Like, things like that.
So there were other people on Reddit going through the same...
If you want to look into it, look at Fed News on Reddit.
Okay.
It's a bit of a mess right now, but like it's...
There's a subreddit.
Yes.
Of government employees.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Fed News, FEDNEWS, yeah. I'm more fortunate in that it doesn't upend my whole life as much as it has with other people. Like, other people have moved across country for a job like this and have a kids and, a house or whatever. And, at least I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
But it was a shock. I'm still shocked. And
when you were telling this story, I thought, like, when you first got the test email, I thought for some reason it was going to be like, you didn't answer within 20 minutes. The entire department is fired.
Right. Yeah.
Especially since we discussed how long we take to respond emails the last time we were hanging out.
Well, with work, I do respond.
Wow. Okay.
So that's all. Like I think I explained what happened without interpreting it too much, and like,
yeah,
without an emotional attachment too much to it.
Yeah.
Which is what I wanted to do. Because, like, I'm still processing it, like, in some I'm like, I was hired to do the exact thing that they say that they want to do, is like make everything more efficient.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was doing.
I'm just thinking, and I don't know, it's fine if you don't want to interpret, we don't have to, but as you're telling me, the thought is occurring to me that there are so many people who may have been, like, as you said, on probation doesn't mean bad. Mm-hmm. There could be people who had legitimate benefits to the work they're doing, and I'm just thinking there's no way just like pressing a big red button and getting thousands of people across many departments axed at the same time. I feel it's going to have some effects that we haven't quite seen yet. I didn't know it was this big of a...
I think the one situation that kind of shows how maybe not very thoughtful they were in this process was that they happened to fire 2 government employees who were working on, I forget the specifics, but they were working on making sure that our nukes were safe, basically. And they accidentally fired them. I forget specifically what their job was, but it was that kind of thing where they were working on the nuclear weapons that we have to make sure they're stored safely or something like that. And they fired 2 of these people, and then they were like, oops, we shouldn't have done that. And they were trying to rehire them, but like nobody had their personal information, like their personal cell phone.
They ended up in Cuba or something.
I don't know. So I think eventually they did find them, but like it took them days to rehire these people. So
okay, I think you answered the question.
Like, they're firing because I was in the USDA. I was kind of more aware of what was happening in there.
Yeah,
and in the USDA, the Forestry Service is in that. So like your park rangers who are out maintaining the trails, they fired like 3,000 of these, like, wow, forest rangers, park service people who are making, literally they're making like $40,000 to $50,000 a year. And like, and you can see their salaries. Like, that's all public. Like, my salary will be public. Their salaries are public. So it's not right. It's not like there's some secret that they're actually making like $300,000 a year to like maintain the trails. Like, they're making barely enough to get by.
Right.
And because they are probationary, they were fired.
Do you think this is just the beginning?
Yeah, definitely. And they've made that clear that they want to do more. reductions. There's a lot of terminology and legality that they'll have to deal with once they get past just probationary employees, because then it becomes more difficult. But it's still possible.
Wow, man. Like, I've been of the opinion for the last 10 or so years, let's say, that the media is being unnecessarily alarmist. But and like I can be political. I follow things. I have opinions on things. And I have been like, yeah, it's not as bad as they're making it sound, but the last few weeks have been, and the last few weeks I haven't been following everything. I have some idea what's been happening, and I've been like, yep, that doesn't look good. Doesn't spark confidence. So
it's been weird.
What's your plan now, if you have any?
Professionally?
Yeah, if you're still planning on working.
I think professionally, I'm gonna go all in on this podcasting thing. And
It would have been even funnier if you weren't joking. And that was my genuine reaction. Let's do it.
I'm going to take like a little bit of time to like,
sure,
chill out, relax a little bit. Fortunately, I can do that. But yeah, I'm still trying to do some freelancing.
Okay.
I'll do that for a bit. And yeah, maybe eventually I'll look for a full-time job. But man, I like, even if I wasn't fired, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to, like, it's such a strange situation that they're going through there.
I know what you're getting at, because I remember when we discussed at length why you wanted to do this, and I can see how that vision may be affected given the changes that are taking place, even if you weren't fired.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not that I don't want to work hard, obviously.
Right.
Like, I was working hard, and I was looking for something more stable than a private company.
Right, and you thought the government would be that.
And I thought the government would be that, but I also could do something that, is something that could help people in a larger sense. And I really thought I had found that, because it felt like the right place. I really liked my team, my coworkers. They were all great, and they were all hard workers. And
damn.
Yeah, it was sad. Really. And I don't like to be like, no matter which party was in power at the time, like, I just wanted to do a good job with the work I had. Like, it didn't matter who was in power. Like,
I know you're one of the most apolitical people I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least you don't base your work on such things. I know, like, you would want to. It wouldn't change how you do things.
Right.
Are they still hiring?
No, there's a firing freeze on. There's a hiring freeze on.
Right.
For now.
There's definitely not a firing freeze on.
There's not a firing freeze. Sorry. I think that's only 90 days, but it's clear they're not going to like start hiring again. Like,
I think they'll extend it.
I think they'll either extend it or make some policy where if they hire somebody, they have to get rid of two people or, something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's been talked about. Yeah.
You think when the storm blows over, you would apply for the same job?
What do you mean by this storm blows over?
When they fire everybody they want to fire, and they're like, okay, now we need somebody to do what
can do what we wanted in the first place.
What they hired you to do, essentially. Because they still want to be more efficient. That didn't go away.
Well, I think what they mean by efficient is just like throw AI in to do everything.
I really hope.
I really think because think of it, they're getting millions of emails. Nobody's like manually going through them.
Right.
Like, they're processing them all with AI and probably like categorizing them as like, responded in the correct way or responded in bad way or didn't respond, and maybe that list will affect the later firings that they'll do in the future.
Wow.
So on Saturday, which is yesterday.
This is already after everything.
Yeah, after everything we've already discussed.
Okay.
Elon, that guy.
Heard of him.
Yeah, so he tweets out or X's out. I'm reading the thing now. Consistent with President Donald Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation.
Continue.
And so I've seen screenshots of the actual email, and it basically says, list 5 bullet points of what you did last week. And it came from the same Office of Personnel Management HR email. So it's sent to the whole government, and everybody is supposed to respond with a list of 5 things they did last week.
Couldn't you lie?
You can say, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Just because it's AI, I mean, it's definitely AI.
Yeah, because they have to process that many emails with AI. They can't do it by an actual person looking at it. So you can say whatever you want, I guess. I mean, I guess you're supposed to actually write what you did, but nobody's stopping you from making anything up.
Right. So, as you said, I don't think the AI is going to be like...
Right. You didn't actually program for 3 hours that day.
No, you didn't actually cure cancer that day.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, whenever I've used any of the AIs, I can just say something. I can just ask something and it will give me the answer. And I could be like, that's not true. Milk isn't white. And they'd be like, actually, you're right. Milk isn't white. It's like color is all. And like it never really pushes back strongly enough.
Yeah.
So if you make something a little bit believable, I think this must be a stupid way of keeping people on or firing, but I don't know what's going on in the background.
Yeah, who knows? Well, so I guess, I will say that given everything that's happening now, like, I don't know what I would have done, like getting an email like that. I don't know. It's just, and, there are a lot of government employees that don't even have a regular access to a laptop. Like they work out in the field or something, and you're supposed to reply by Monday at 12, like 11:59 p.m. Like, what if you're out in the field and you don't have a laptop? I don't know. It's very strange.
This doesn't feel like it's been thought through very well.
Superficially, that is what you would conclude, but
maybe they have and they just don't care.
Or there's other, I don't know. Oh, sorry. The email was sent to me. The email that fired me was sent to me at 9:01 p.m.
Okay.
So
And you lost access.
the next morning at about 8:30 or 9.
What if you just like didn't see and just showed up to work next day?
I mean, I think in the system I'm already fired. So
I know, but it would make like because your direct supervisor didn't know.
no. His supervisor didn't know.
And that's crazy. Like you work remote, but somebody who doesn't work remote and just didn't, because you're not expected to check your email at 9 p.m.
No, you're not. You're pretty much not supposed to. Like, it should just be working hours.
There must be somebody in all of these United States who didn't see the email on time and just went to work.
I've heard stories about that. Yeah. Yeah.
But like the boss doesn't even know. And what happens then? Like my key card's not working or...
Yes.
Huh.
That's pretty... I mean, it's the same thing that like they shut off my account. They just shut off somebody else's account, and that means they can't access the building or...
Wow. That's just weird.
It's weird. Yeah, it doesn't seem... It really feels like it was a strange dream or a strange movie.
Yeah.
I still don't... I'm like, really? That's how it happened? Like, and now technically on my record, I've been fired for performance reasons.
Oh, does that stay on your record?
Oh, yes. Technically, if I applied to a new job, and
they'll be able to see that you got fired for...
Well, and if they checked my reference at the USDA, the HR would say he was let go for performance reasons.
That's terrible.
Yes, it is terrible. I think that, and this happened to enough people, like thousands of people. It's been widely reported in the media. I guess the problem is if you apply to a place that has some automatic, like, filtering of people who've had these performance appraisals, like if there's somewhere in the application where you have to check, like, were you ever fired due to a performance issue?
Right.
And like, yeah, technically I have been. So either I am truthful and then they're just going to filter me out anyway, of course, or I say no and I'm sort of
interpreting,
lying, but like not really, because
damn. Looking at all the headlines, I keep seeing people saying that we're in the darkest timeline, and I just keep saying we're in the weirdest timeline, because it's just all the news are weird.
It's weird. It's totally weird. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else that I missed?
What's the learnable from all that?
I'm trying to figure out if I should go practical or philosophical.
Do both.
I think a very practical learnable that fortunately I've already learned is to have, if at all possible, have an emergency fund. Have so like, because I literally will get my last paycheck this Friday and it will only be half of a paycheck and that's it, and I won't get any more from that job. And it's not like, it was a good salary, but it's, and that's one of the things with the government, the salary is generally much lower than what you'd get in the private sector. Specifically for my work, it's about 50% less.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 40. But, it's still, it's significantly less. So I think, practically it's just have an emergency fund. And
what's the philosophical?
I guess it's more about dealing with the uncertainty, and that, like, I had expected this to be a very stable job and the most certain you could be in a longer term career.
Right. I remember when we discussed it, you were like, that was one of its.
Yeah. I guess, like, you can never rely on that sort of thing. Like, you have to be okay with, like, the chaos.
Yeah. There was no way to know. Like,
No. Like,
you're a good data scientist. You know that you could have all the.
I mean, I'm not like a genius. I'm not the best, but I've always done good work, I think, and I've always tried hard, and, like, maybe I'm not gonna, work at Google developing some, like, new groundbreaking algorithm, but I can surely do a lot. And fortunately, I have enough confidence in myself that I'm not worried that it's actually a reflection on my performance. I know it's totally, I know so it's not that.
It hasn't mentally made you doubt yourself.
No.
Okay. So you're worried about the future for more practical reasons, like emergency fund and the reflecting on your record and whatnot, but you're still mentally prepared to take on new challenges, and you don't doubt yourself. I think that's a good. What's funny?
I don't know. It sounded like you were trying to be inspirational.
I wasn't. I think that was actually a pretty healthy place to be.
No, I think I've gotten there, in a week, like,
Oh, did you doubt yourself initially? Did you think?
No. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. I'm saying last week I would not have been this calm talking about this like a week ago.
Sure, but you didn't doubt your ability. You knew this was.
No. I never thought it was actually due to my performance.
It was kind of obvious just from the sequence of events that.
Yeah, and my supervisor literally said, "You've been doing a great job." Like. I don't want this to happen.
Damn.
Guess this podcast better work out.
Yeah, why not?